it was after that the Law Society really led into governizing. We advised on the formation of a pressure group, because as long as you are under 10, you do not require to be registered. You are not an illegal society. And that's how we approached the people, the politicians, to join us. Because we say, here is a church. It was actually not the entire church. It was individuals within the church. Gitare, Okulu, people like Joya. And we said, here is the church. Here is the Law Society. Because at that time, civil society were not there to talk of. I mean, it was a Law Society. We needed a third group of the politicians. And that's how we approached these elders to form that front of the to agitate for increasing the democratic space. And now, to come back to the issue here, the summary for the clamor for the new constitution is increasing democratic space.
This is information that's not in the public domain.
Or just ignore a lot of it, because it is probably...
Kenyans want to know. I mean, these are young Kenyans,
I've never heard of that.
We need to know.
We are using the judiciary not to get any results, but it was the only platform, because even the media was completely covered.
Yes.
But as long as they were covering proceedings in court, it was okay. But the intimidation was very, very extreme, even for lawyers. I mean, it was amazing. But, so it came to a head in 1990. But maybe it's important to explain, as you say, some of the missteps in the search for a new constitution.
Yes.
First of all, the real group that used to meet in my office in the Electricity House was Gitogo Imanyara, James Orengo, Peter, Professor Nyang Yongo, one Joagel, who is now with Power and Lighting, because Kiraito was actually out of the country, Gibson was out of the country until March later. Raila joined us for a short time, and then he escaped to Sweden. But this was the core group, and the person we were working with was Jaramogi. And then, of course, when you expanded the group, Matiba and that sort of thing. But if you are interested in some of those details, you see, when we constituted these elders, we assumed, in fact, the person we wanted, we sat down as this little group that I'm talking about, and we were thinking of which politicians. We had no problem with Jaramogi, we had no problem with Matiba, we had no problem with Charles Rubia. We settled in on Muliro, the late Muliro. But we had agreed that if Muliro agreed to be part of the team, we would leave Shikuku out of it. Raila rushed and talked to Shikuku, who had initially had refused, but then later came on board. When he came, not only did he come on board, but he brought Bamaris and John Jidenge. And that was the beginning of problems within the fund. So that went on, and then the agitation picked up, and Kina Matiba issued a good statement. We used to sort of meet with them on the side. They would come to the house my house very early on Sunday mornings at 5 a.m. They would be there because they were being followed and that sort of thing. But the day that the Matiba and Rubia almost got detained, they had held a meeting with the Jaramogi in Ajib House. They then walked down to my office in the Electricity House because we had agreed they would come to tell me whether Jaramogi had completely agreed to be part of it, which he had, by the way. But they had talked, and he said, how the marriage between you people, the Kikuyus and the Luos, had gone in 63. Now, if we succeed in multi-partyism, who is going to be the leader? And we had sat in my house with Matiba and Rubia, and we had agreed, let's leave it to Jaramogi. So they were able to respond, you are going to be the leader. And that's something that had been discussed. People like Jobo Mino were there. We used to meet with them. Okulu, we used to meet with them. So that had explicitly been agreed upon. So they walked down from Jaramogi's office in Ajip House to my office in Electricity House. I remember that day very well because we were seated at the sofa setting in the office. Just the three of us. They're just briefing me. When over 30 intelligent people burst into the office, and I had quickly alerted the other lawyers to come with the media. You know, we truly went through a lot of harassment. And they said, if you don't open, you are going to break down this door, and had to open it. And they passed in, walkie-talkies and everything. Said, you are having a little meeting. I said, these are my clients. No, this is an illegal meeting. Arguments, until to my great relief, they said, I don't know why you are shouting. It is not you we are interested in, it is these two. And can we go? It was quite clear to me that we're going to be detained. I said, now, if it is not me you are interested in, these are my clients. And I advise them not to cooperate. If you want to lift them physically, you can lift them physically, but they should not go through altercations. We ended up going down the staircase from the 6th floor. And by the time we are now at the entrance of Electricity House, the whole of Harambe Avenue is full of people. And they want to know what is going on. And I say they want to detain Matiba and Rubia. And it was a good mood because the public, and they had not been organized by anybody, they said no, they will not be detained. And none of us, really, it was a very tense situation. And all these intelligence people disappeared into the crowd. And Rubia started saying, now let me address them, because being politicians are quite... And the cars that had been parked there for them to be put in went away very quietly. Then I was called by the fellow who was most hostile inside the office. And he went around to the supermarket there and said to me, now I've been told not to arrest your client, but please let them not go back to your office. Dr. John Hamino is here. Let him go with one of the clients, and then you can remain with one. So John Hamino went with Rubia, and I went back to the office with Matiba. These are some of maybe irrelevant anecdotes, but it used to be very, very oppressive. Of course, thereafter, the real reason why Moi wanted to detain them, because his politics were completely tribal. He did not want the Kikuyus to be on the same side with the Luos. That's what had frightened him. That I can tell you. Yeah, to hear that Rubia, and that's what had frightened him. So they escaped. That would have been early 90s. So it went on, and they issued this statement calling for multi-partyism. We used to have a lot of help from Smith Hemstones. Used to meet with him very often. He was very vocal. He himself was being vilified on a daily basis. Now, I then advised Matiba and Rubia, why don't we apply for a permit to hold a public rally in Kamukunji? I was still pursuing the ideas I had given at the dinner of the Law Society. that you cannot use Section 2A to deny freedom of assembly or freedom of speech. You apply for a rally. And we went to Nyayo House, where the PC's office was, with the forms to ask for a meeting in Kamukunji to be attended by everybody. And there was a lot of excitement. And of course, the government went berserk and said there will be no meeting. In fact, shortly after these detentions, Matiba called off the rally and said, the rally is not there because the permit has not been given. Presently, the government did not quite believe that people would not turn out Kamukunji. So I remember very distinctly, first of all, my office in Electricity House had 3 security officers at the entrance to Electricity House and 2 security officers on the 6th floor where my office was. It was very oppressive, and that's how they killed the practice, because they would stop you. Why are you going to go and see a lawyer? Who will you go through that sort of security network simply to go and see a lawyer? And that particular Wednesday, I think it was a Wednesday, it was a weekday, a friend of mine who used to be the number 2 at the American Embassy, but had been appointed American ambassador to Malawi, was passing through. And he came to see me, and I was also going to have a game of golf. And so I'm walking out with him, and I'm introducing these 2 security officers, and I jokingly say this is one of my foreign masters. And they were very excited. One of my partners, Mohammed Ibrahim, had come wanting to discuss a legal issue with me. So I'm walking out to the lift with Mohammed Ibrahim and this American ambassador, George Trill, what was his name? And I'm talking to these people. I wanted to avoid the traffic, the 1 o'clock traffic, so I'm in a hurry to get to Karen. And I said, joking, this is one of my foreign masters, and anyway, you can go home today, I'm not coming back in the afternoon. And they were very excited. Sort of, where are you going? I think they were not very well coordinated. I mean, the ones who are told to guard you are not the ones sort of following you. Kube, they had already been given orders that we were to be detained that evening. They would pick people who they are detaining in the evening, not during the day. Mm-hmm. So me, I had a very good game of golf, Karen, FT Nyamu, and about 6 o'clock, my wife telephones me, and there were no mobiles at the club, to tell me Matiba had just been picked from his college house office. A few minutes later, she rings. Charles Rubia has been picked up from Nairobi, from Muthaiga Country Club. And I get information. Gitomo has been picked, So I knew Kimemwana. So I organized. The person who was with us is Japhet Shamala. And I knew they did not know that Japhet was part of us. So I organized for all of us to meet in Shamala's house in Riara Road. Because they did not know that he was part of. So we met there that night. Gibson came. And we were strategizing on how to react. So we agreed. Gibson had been detained in 86, by the way. He got detained for 8 months. And we agreed there is no point in him being detained again and me being detained. So we agreed it's my turn to now be detained. And for Gibson, he should go to the US, and carry on the struggle from there. So that was all agreed upon. Poor John Haminwa said, tomorrow, you Paul, if you are seen anywhere, you'll be detained. So we agreed that John Haminwa, we had called Rubia's son, we had called Susan Matiba. So we agreed John Haminwa will go with them the following day to the Nairobi Provincial Headquarters, because whoever was Nairobi Provincial Officer would also be the one in charge of detainees. And I contacted somebody that I had been introduced to by Smith Hemstone. And we arranged. So we made all these arrangements. It's actually quite interesting because I'm the one who arranged for Gibson to go to the American Embassy here in Nairobi. They agreed to open the embassy on a Saturday morning. Normally they will not open embassies on a Saturday. And I was told, make sure he's here at 10 a.m. on the dot. So that time I was hiding in the house of a friend. And I had given the telephone number. And we arranged for Gibson to be smuggled by a Kenatco taxi that went through all the roadblocks. From Karen, I had worked out that these people manning roadblocks will allow Kenatco as a government agent. So the taxi went through, and I was telephoned by this individual, and he said to me, the cargo is on board. And very quickly replaced the receiver, and I knew Gibson had gotten into the embassy. And Smith Hemstone was very good. They arranged for Gibson now to go to the US. The British will not even give Gibson a visa, a transit visa. And they were very, very hostile. They were wholly with more. So I went back to the house. People keep asking, how come you're in hiding for nearly 4 weeks? I went back to the house. I packed my coat and cardigan and everything, waiting for them to come for me. They went ransacking the houses of all my friends and associates. But they must have assumed I could not possibly be in my house. So after very 4 days, reading the headlines, we concluded these people obviously don't think I can be in the house. Me, I stayed upstairs and briefed the kids not to mention anything. They were still young. They didn't know what was happening. And I was in my house throughout. Throughout the nearly 4 weeks. We only had a scare one day because my wife was told that there was a police Land Rover by the gate, and the gate was opened. And I actually took my coat and my cardigan, and I was saying goodbye to her. And maybe this is when one talks about women having the sixth sense. She said, why don't you just wait a little while? Let me just go and talk to them and find out what's happening. And I'm peeping from upstairs window. And I see this khaki uniformed police officer, sort of saluting Edith, my wife. It says, Madam, we are very, very sorry. There was a gun I had been given, but that's another story, way back in 74. And this is the time now they are coming for this guy. Madam, wherever he's hiding, you are in contact. We don't want to harass you, but we want this gun. When he contacts you, either he gives you the gun, you bring it to Langata police station, or you tell us to come for it. Madam, sorry for troubling you. And they went. And so that's what it was. Until now, Moi was put under a lot of pressure for detaining the lawyers. I think the issue was you can detain the others, but the lawyers you must release. You must release the lawyers. And the lawyers were Gitoke, Dr. John Haminoa, and Mohammed Ibrahim.
There's also detained.
Who?
Mohammed Ibrahim.
Mohammed Ibrahim, you remember I said we were walking out with him?
Yes.
In the evening when they were coming for me in the office, and I wasn't there, they went to Mohammed Ibrahim's office. You see, he must have told you where he was going.
They took him instead.
Where was he? Mohammed Ibrahim saw a bunch of bundle of detention orders. The one on top had my name on. The others were signed in blank. Na wanamwambia usicheze, tuambie alienda wapi. I don't know, I was just discussing a legal issue. Usicheze, wakajaza jina yake hapo hapo. It's terrible. John Haminwa, who the previous night was telling us, you and Gibson don't go anywhere near. He offered to go with Japheth Shamala to Nairobi area police headquarters. So he went. And they are waiting to see Kenoti, who was a provincial police officer. And Kenoti goes out of his office and says, John, can I see you for a minute? And Shamala says, but we came about the same issue. Why do you want to see him? He said, no, it's nothing to do with what you are to discuss with me. That we are going to discuss in a minute. So they disappear through a corridor, down the lift staircase. People don't know that the provincial police headquarters has got cells which are 6 floors down there. I know this because that is where I was held in November 1991, the following year. And that is where Dr. John Hamino was dumped at 10 a.m. and was being served with a detention order at 11:45. Midnight. No food, nothing, no chair, nothing. So it was a very, sort of terrible situation. Anyway, that went on the way it went. Section 2 was repealed. Let me get back to the main story rather than writing my biography.
Very interesting.
It's even more interesting if I were to talk about the Kamukoji of 1991, where we actually, again, were housed because they wanted to stop us from going to this Kamukoji. And we worked out where to hide, and we thought they don't think we can be hidden by any African government. So we spent the night in Kileleshwa in the house of the then number 2 for the Zimbabwean embassy. And that's where we emerged from to go to Kamukunji on 16th of November, 1991. Now, to get back to the main story, when Section 2A was repealed, some of us said the repeal of Section 2A is leaving intact all the institutions of oppression. It does not increase the democratic space. And therefore, without a new constitution, we will not participate in these elections. In fact, we held a meeting in the Lemurka to argue for a new constitutional order before participating in the elections. Now, it is important to realize how geopolitics can also influence things. Because Smith Hemstone had been our very staunch ally. But the geopolitics had changed. And the United States was more interested in getting more support for their escapades in Somalia, Mogadishu, and in the internal democracy of Kenya.